English translation, 194th contact. Friday, 15th of June, 1984, 19:15 hours.
Today, I only come here briefly, in order to give you information and instructions about some things that are of importance for you. 1. In reference to the male and female law leaders as well as the ceremonies, you must note the following. A. We have come to the realization that the future, in relation to the aforementioned, will no longer be determined by us, but rather by the group. B. Thus, the ceremonies are supposed to be prepared by the group and be calculated according to Earth measures. C. Similarly, its own harmonious music should find entrance. D. This likewise applies to useful and harmonious singing. E. In reference to the leading officer's directions, the same applies because the how, where, and what should likewise be determined by the existing group. 2. It is now high time that the already existing group begins to report and accept all responsibility itself, and indeed for all concerns. 3. It may no longer continue that one always asks us for advice in all things, both important things as well as trivial. In the future, the existing group has to decide everything itself. 4. Our official time of contact for the general public is slowly approaching its end. So in the future, we will only very seldom visit you in this form, but everything internally will continue to be maintained. And since this is the case, every concern must also be worked out in the future by the existing group itself. Similarly, our withdrawal of the public contacts also means that we will no longer get involved in public demonstrations of any kind, but coincidences cannot be excluded. 5. Everything of the group that is now to be acquired should be prepared according to earthly standards and opportunities and be brought to application, because nothing should be templated according to our errand patterns. The Earth humans live on Earth, so everything must be handled and must be regulated according to earthly values, which is surely to be understood. 6. Even if we must cancel our official contacts, as it was planned, we will continue to linger on the Earth and will maintain contact with you, but we will otherwise remain only as observers and not in an active and intervening form. This, at least until the year 2029, after which, presumably, we will then finally remove ourselves and will turn our attention to other tasks that are foreign to the Earth, with the assurance that we permanently withdraw ourselves into our time dimension and never again return to this space-time configuration. 7. More effort from all group members must urgently be put forth in all things if everything should now lead to success. This also applies to the foreigners and particularly to the ignorant skeptics, such as Hannah. 8. Your health has been very strongly hit and has been heavily damaged, which is why you need a rest, and for years to come. As we see the situation relating to this, you will never be able to recover fully in this life, quite the opposite. For this reason, you should now be mindful of the fact that you omit strict work in the future and transfer this to the existing group. 9. You have already provided and written down sufficient material which reaches for the instruction of the Earth humans very far into the future. And there is sufficient material available such that with it, the group can now take the necessary initiative. 10. Out of the existing materials, the group now has to prepare written interpretations in order to expand everything to a great extent. 11. Out of all of the existing materials, new writings and works must be prepared by the group, which are explanatory in all things. 12. In the future, you should only function as a teacher and counselor, while the group members now have to take over the mission work in a more independent and self-responsible manner. 13. For your health's sake, we and the High Council have not yet become conclusive as to whether the intended additional contacts should be taken up with you now or in the year 1986. Time will first prove this, depending on whether you survive this whole time, and if so, how you manage health-wise until then. If the contacts should still arise, then they will probably be of a purely telepathic nature, because physical contacts would probably neither be necessary nor portable for you or for the other side. Then furthermore, all our allies, who are also not replaced like us, will likewise withdraw themselves with us. Only in the distant future will we perhaps return in secret to fulfill our remaining tasks, as is planned. However, this will be when the Earth human has already long dominated spaceflight and has completed contact in an official form with other human forms in the universe. However, these human forms will be of a different form than we are, which is why they can physically associate with the Earth humans.
Then contacts with other non-earthly humans are still coming in the distant time?
That is of correctness, and it is to be expected that intelligences of non-Lyran origin will appear again. And as our calculations show, there should be those among them whose original, ancient forefathers already visited the Earth, if not always in a loving kind and wise.
Probably those who showed themselves off as angry gods and other rulers?
That is of correctness.
But are you really so far along with your tasks that you can simply withdraw, or at least retract yourselves, as this was intended according to the plan from the very beginning?
The necessary knowledge has been given to the Earth humans by you and by us. And this is, indeed, sufficient to lead a life, in the small and large, according to the right guidelines, and to arrange everything accordingly. The Earth human has to learn the rest through their own evolution. But the road is still very long and difficult, especially when one thinks of the many acts of war and of the national enslavement which will still haunt the Earth. But listen, the final departure on our part has not been definitely decided yet. Therefore, the contacts may still continue under certain circumstances. But this will first prove itself.
And the Third World War? What about that?
Still, for a long time, everything is unclear, and everything stands on the knife's cutting edge. Things are so confused that no clear picture can be derived from it. Currently, everything seems to point to such a war, but in contrast, the danger is less severe again. However, all final facts show that this war is inevitable, and thus that it will come. But everything, as I said, is uncertain because these facts are changing constantly, particularly through the peace meditation, which should occur in a much larger framework, nevertheless. It is probably effective in the existing smallest framework, but the foreign and hostile powers are simply too great. So at least only the alleviation of terror can be sought after if the great chaos is actually inevitable, and, nevertheless, still falls, which still seems to be unavoidable, at least for the time of the prophecies. But the future will tell what will be and what we, at present, do not yet clearly see.
Then the human being of the Earth must continue to live with the fear of the Third World War.
Unfortunately, that is still correct for the time being, and with that, my friend, I once again said all that I had to say for today.
I also have no questions because for some time my head feels like it's hollowed out.
That is understandable because you are very lacking in health. You need plenty of rest and plenty of sleep, and above all, you also must abstain from strains. Therefore, I also do not want to occupy you any longer. Until we meet again, my friend. Sahlomi.
Salome, take care.